In Nebraska, a state known for its straightforward governance, public officials are involved in what's called the sanctuary games. These officials publicly deny sanctuary policies while their actions suggest otherwise, creating a discrepancy between their words and practices. This situation has led to debates about the true intentions behind Nebraska's approach to illegals, affecting local law enforcement and community trust. These sanctuary games involve a sophisticated interplay of deceit where the actions of those in power, ranging from the state's highest offices to local law enforcement, contradict their public narratives. Nebraska, along with Douglas County and its urban center, Omaha, have become pivotal in a nationwide discourse on sanctuary policies. Here, the protection of illegal aliens is not just a policy choice but a battleground of conflicting interests, where financial incentives, political strategies, and covert influences coalesce to create a sanctuary environment under the guise of maintaining law and order. The implications of these sanctuary games extend beyond mere policy implications, touching on the very core of public trust, legal integrity, and the social fabric of Nebraskan communities. The governor of Nebraska, joined by mayors and law enforcement chiefs throughout the state, have made it abundantly clear in public speeches and official statements that their jurisdictions do not operate under sanctuary policies. Yet, the reality on the ground paints a different picture. In Nebraska, local law enforcement's interactions with immigration and customs enforcement are minimal, often explained away by citing legal restrictions that require judicial warrants for detentions, thus creating a de facto sanctuary. Douglas County, led by its sheriff, has policies that refuse to honor ICE detainers unless backed by judicial orders, effectively establishing a sanctuary environment. In Omaha, the police chief, following the directives of the mayor, has ensured that immigration status is not a part of routine policing, fostering a sanctuary city atmosphere where illegal criminals can feel safe from federal immigration enforcement. In an attempt to align with certain political narratives, the governor signed an executive order endorsing the current president's immigration policies. This move was a symbolic gesture, lacking in any real enforcement or policy shift on the ground. The continuation of existing practices without change suggests that this order was more about public perception than actual policy implementation. This scenario underscores a broader issue where state responsibilities are passed off to federal authorities, allowing local officials to continue their sanctuary practices without direct accountability. The city of Omaha exemplifies a complex game of responsibility dodging. Here, the police chief can claim adherence to the mayor's directives, who in turn can deflect responsibility to the city council, creating a cycle where no one takes ultimate responsibility for the sanctuary policies being enacted. Each official can claim they are merely following orders, adhering to the will of the public, or constrained by higher authority, while in reality, these practices protect illegal immigrants from federal enforcement, fostering a sanctuary city by default. The sheriff of Douglas County has mastered the art of public relations by publicly denouncing sanctuary policies while quietly implementing practices that mirror them. This strategy allows the sheriff to maintain a public image that aligns with conservative values, emphasizing law and order, while in practice, cooperation with ICE is minimal, often only in cases of serious crimes. This approach is a purposeful move to protect illegal invaders under the guise of community trust and law enforcement discretion, for social pressure, political leverage, and financial benefit. The shift in federal immigration policy under the past administration has significantly influenced local practices in Nebraska. An increase in illegal migrants arrived without proper documentation that led to a scenario where local law enforcement can, either by design or by default, ignore immigration statuses. This is often rationalized by citing federal policy or the lack of clear directives, creating a complex environment where local officials can continue to play sanctuary games without directly challenging federal authority. Behind the scenes, a sophisticated network of financial and political incentives shapes the sanctuary policies in Nebraska. Elected officials at various levels leverage the illegal population for personal or political gain. Funds allocated for public services like housing, healthcare, and education are often redirected or misused, while demographic shifts are used to influence electoral outcomes. There are also explicit and corrupt practices where officials gain from bribes or kickbacks from businesses using cheap labor, or they partake in real estate schemes that profit from the sheltering of illegal tenants. Public employees, from law enforcement to civic administrators, find themselves entangled in affiliations with groups and organizations funded by investors who profit from illegals. These connections do not surface in public forums but are nurtured in secretive meetings, private clubs, and personal dialogues. The public discourse, especially in settings like city council meetings, is often criticized for being filled with half-truths or outright propaganda, serving the interests of these investor-backed groups rather than the well-being of the community. The revelation of these practices has ignited a demand for accountability among the populace. The narrative around sanctuary policies in Nebraska transcends the issue of immigration to question the very nature of governance and public trust. There is a palpable call to action to remove these officials through electoral means, to stop the sanctuary games, and to return to a governance model where public service is paramount over personal gain. The sanctuary games in Nebraska unveil a disturbing reality where the integrity of public service is compromised by self-interest, political maneuvering, and financial incentives. This discrepancy between the public's expectations and the officials' actions has led to a profound erosion of trust in governmental institutions. The situation in Nebraska, Douglas County, and Omaha not only challenges local governance but also poses critical questions about the role of sanctuary policies in community development, safety, and economic impact. As this debate unfolds, the necessity for transparency, accountability, and a genuine commitment to public welfare becomes increasingly urgent. Nebraska is on its own, as each state must tackle these issues independently due to having its own set of entrenched public officials engaging in sanctuary shenanigans. This scenario emphasizes the need to thoroughly scrutinize these officials, their roles in the illegal immigration situation, the incentives and hidden agendas they have for keeping illegal populations within communities, and their preference for these issues over other public concerns. It also points to the importance of recognizing the deceptions that protect these practices and developing strategies to oppose those who support illegals, aiming to win in the sanctuary games.